Buying or selling, commercial or residential, think real estate, think Darren James. You want an unbelievable customer service experience, you want Darren James. It's part of his core values for Darren and his team. Darren tells me all the time, as long as I've known Darren, he said, my goal one day is to put myself out of business. I want to create such a turnkey, seamless, easy process for people to be able to buy and sell homes that they don't even need me anymore. Well, as Darren continues on that path in the meantime, he's going to help you sell your home. So if you need to sell your home, you want a realtor that quite literally sells more homes than anyone, you want Darren James. Last year, Wall Street Journal is listed the top 1% of realtors in America, Darren James. So need to sell your home fast for the most amount of money, you need Darren James. 335-7666, 335-7666, or agent225.com.
Think real estate, think Darren James.
Off and running, welcome in. After further review, AFR here on a Wednesday presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Musso in for Moscona, Luke Foster, Paul O'Neill along for the ride, and we are fired up to have you along for the ride here as well. Good show coming up for you here today, man. Number one player in the transfer portal, LSU left fielder, or LSU outfielder, I should say, Bino Waters will be on the show at 4:15. Fired up for that conversation with Bino. Dalton Wasserman will be with us here in about 13 or so minutes. Get Dalton's thoughts. He was part of the team that put together the top 50 college football players for Pro Football Focus. 3 LSU guys on the list. We talked about that a little earlier in the week. Circle back with Dalton. Get his thoughts on LSU. But really the SEC and kind of college football as a whole as it relates to that list. So looking forward to those two conversations here a little bit later on in the show. One NFL draft analyst had some of the highest praise for Sam Levitt. So we'll get to that a little bit later on in the show. And we got a bunch of recruiting updates to get to here as well. It's funny. We had Shay on yesterday joking about dead period. And here we are yet again, just another day with a couple different recruiting tidbits. So we got a bunch to get to, and we'll go ahead and start the show as we do every single day.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
And we will start with, well, one of those recruiting updates. So when we had Shay Dixon on the show with us Tuesday, we covered a lot, talked about Jaden Andy and that commitment, how he fits, LSU safety room, all of those things. We talked to Shay about the proposal, or the framework, I should say, for a potential legal tampering period in college football. And then as we were getting out of that interview, asked Shay, all right, like, here we are, it's July, things typically, there's no more OVs, like you're in a dead period when it comes to that. But what are we watching the rest of the month? Like, if there's one thing you had to pick that we needed to know that we were watching for the rest of the month, what was it? And Shay said, well, we're on 5-star watch. And included in that is Easton Royal, but really included in that is Jalen Brewster. And that's what I want to talk about here to start the show. Brewster, over the last couple of weeks now, let's say the last week and a half, there's really been a lot of smoke around LSU flipping the number one player in the class of 2027 away from Texas Tech and into their own class for 2027. Defensive tackle, again, number one player basically Lamar Brown from a year ago. Now, Lamar Brown's going to end up playing edge at LSU, but you understand. Like, that's what you're dealing with here. He's committed to Texas Tech, has been since last year, but LSU has turned up the heat, and where there's smoke, there's fire. And when I say smoke, there's smoke, and it's not just from the LSU side. It is national smoke as well. Steve Wiltfong last week, we talked to Shay about this when he was with us on the show last week. Steve Wiltfong last week sat down with Jalen Brewster's father and got him on the record about the recruitment and the push LSU was making, and he was extremely complimentary and gave a bunch of high praise to not only Lane Kiffin and Kevin Peoples, but also Ed Ogeron, and that's really where this started. So Jalen Brewster made his official visit to LSU the same week that Ed Ogeron was hired. Remember, there was the picture that kind of went viral of those two outside of Mike the Tiger's cage. And it was that really kind of put this into overdrive for LSU. And ever since then, it's just gone further and further and further. So Wilt Fong talking to Jalen Brewster's father who is a major player in this recruitment. Like, that is kind of the guy leading the charge in Jalen Brewster's family on where this decision goes as well. So getting him on the record and the high praise he had for LSU staff, including Coach O, that was massive. Last week as well, Inside Texas, which is Texas's On3 account, sent out a report citing a source in Dallas-Fort Worth that Jalen Brewster and Texas Tech were going to mutually part ways, and that LSU was the leader at that point to flip him. Now, obviously, there's been no decision made, but that just gives you the scope really over the last week and a half from the national standpoint of the steam that this is picking up. We talked to Shea Dixon about it last week. We talked with Shea this week about Jalen Brewster. And then today, over at On3 The Bengal Tiger, Shea had another update titled 5 Reasons LSU Has a Realistic Shot to Flip 5-Star Jalen Brewster. And Shea goes through a bunch of things. He talks about the communication with LSU and Jalen Brewster not only holding steady, but increasing, how the relationships continue to be furthered, and how they're stronger than ever. Finish line is approaching. That's something that I really kind of want to talk about, because when we had Shea on Tuesday of this week, and we were talking about being on 5-Star watching Royal and Brewster, Shea said that he would put it at a better than 50% chance right now that Jalen Brewster makes this decision public, whether he's going to stick with Texas Tech or flip to LSU by the start of fall camp. So you're looking at the rest of July and maybe right into August. Why? Well, because LSU and Texas Tech are going to go into fall camp. Like to have that decision made, but also Jalen Brewster is going into fall camp, his high school and going into his senior year. And you see all the time these players wanting that to be done, wanting to get that done, enjoy their senior year, chase a state title, all of those things, sign early in December and move on to the next phase, of their football career. So a better than 50% chance we know the decision come fall camp, whether he sticks with Texas Tech or flips to LSU. That's from Shea Dixon yesterday when he was on this show. Now you look at this and you say, all right, they're continuing the conversations. There's mutual interest from both sides. That was one of the interesting things in Shea's update today, is that both sides are initiating conversation, which, you could never go wrong there. It shows the interest is real and the interest is mutual. The thing I will say, though, is this is a player who is committed to Texas Tech and has had every opportunity to come out and say, yeah, I'm committed to Texas Tech. We're shutting it down. That's where I'm going to be. And he hasn't. And that's another thing that shows you how real that interest is with LSU. And I would tell you, just from, watching recruiting, like most of you do, the longer something like this goes on, while a player is committed to a school, that can only be good for the team he's considering flipping to. Like, the longer this goes on, you have to feel that favors LSU, because it just drags out the process and it allows LSU to continue to strengthen the relationship. And it's not just the coaches. You got Lamar Brown tweeting at Jalen Brewster. Tweeting, come on, man. Like, come on. Come play with me. Come play with Richard Anderson. Come play with Deuce Geralds. Look at the defensive line class we signed last year. The 4 of us, we can be the future. Well, that's a future you really get excited about thinking. You really get excited thinking about, I should say. But it's everything. It's a full court press from LSU. And the longer this goes on, the longer they can keep that full court press on. And again, the interest is clearly there. Otherwise, it's a guy who's been committed It's been committed. It's a guy that's been committed to Texas Tech for over a year, or at least since last year. And the flirtation continues. So this has really picked up steam from his official visit and the addition of Coach O. And it has been pushed kind of into overdrive, it feels like, the last week and a half, where you look up and it feels like you have a Jalen Brewster LSU update almost daily. at this point. So it's something to absolutely watch. It's something that we will keep watching. And you don't think it's a real possibility that LSU flips him, news for you. You're not paying attention, because it's more than a real possibility that LSU flips him. Hopefully we'll know something by the start of fall camp. That'll be done. Now, again, number one player. You probably see this go all the way to signing day, just because no one's going to stop. I mean, hell, he's committed right now. No one stopped, right? So it very much feels like this is come down to LSU, Texas Tech. We just await the final decision. Hopefully we'll have that here in the next couple of weeks or so as LSU gears up, and Texas Tech for that matter, gear up for fall camp. We could put some of this to bed. But LSU's got the full court press on. They're in overdrive. He is their only priority on the defensive line right now, and at the defensive tackle position. That's another thing working in their favor. So we'll keep you updated, obviously, as that continues to progress. I'm sure hell, at this rate, we might have an update tomorrow on it as well. But LSU, they are in full pursuit of Jalen Brewster, and looks like things are trending pretty well right now for your Fighting Tigers of LSU. We'll keep you posted there. All right, we're going to grab a break. We'll come back on the other side. It is a Wednesday edition of AFR presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. When we get back, Dalton Wasserman, he's going to hop aboard Pro Football Focus, their top 50 players in college football ahead of the 2026 season. We'll get Dalton's thoughts and how it shapes the landscape of this upcoming year. That's next on AFR.
AFR.
DuplessisPools.com, DuplessisPools.com, DuplessisPools.com. Go to DuplessisPools.com and start building your dream pool today. DuplessisPools.com. Hat tip to my friend Derek Duplessis and the great staff, as for the second consecutive year, Duplessis Pools was named a top 50 pool builder in America by Pool and Spa magazine. As a matter of fact, Duplessis Pools was the only pool builder in the state of Louisiana to receive that honor. DuplessisPools.com is the website, DuplessisPools.com. Yesterday was awesome. Me, Erica, Drew spent part of our Sunday cooling off in the pool. Might have had a cold Bud Light or two. It's a great way to spend those summer days. Great way to have parties, showpiece. That dream can be your reality as well. But start at DuplessisPools.com. You can design your pool online. You can finance it online. Pay for it right now. It's DuplessisPools.com. Check them out online. It's DuplessisPools.com.
Depression can feel hopeless, draining your energy and joy.
We had him on the line. Call drop. So we're going to call him back real quick, get him on the line. In the meantime, though, want to have Dalton on. Pro Football Focus, they do it every year. They go with all their metrics, and they craft, top 50 college players ahead of the 2026 season. Dalton was part of that process. It was him and Max Chadwick. They also host a podcast together. So figured we'd get Dalton on, and they unveiled it kind of each day throughout. This started back in June, and they finished it late last week. So just kind of coordinate with Dalton to get him on, and today's the way it went. There's 3 LSU players on there that we'll get Dalton's thoughts on, but really kind of want to look at this with him as well, just from a college football standpoint, SEC and abroad, mixing in the LSU. We have Dalton now with us. Of course, you can get him on Twitter, X at CFB Dalton. I think we have Dalton now. Dalton, can you hear me? Okay, I think go ahead, call him back. Call him back one more time. I don't know what's going on there. Give it one more opportunity, or and see if we can get him on the horn here. So sorry about that. There's a few technical difficulties. We kind of went through this a little bit earlier in the week. Sam Levitt, Jordan Seaton, and Trey'Dez Green were the 3 LSU players, obviously, that made this list from Pro Football Focus. One thing I found really interesting that I really hope we can get this set with Dalton is when it came to quarterbacks, the first SEC quarterback didn't appear until number 9 on the list. And I think we all look at the SEC right now, and Manning and Chambliss and so on, Levitt, so on and so forth, and we look at it and go, think it's probably a pretty good quarterback class. So, all right, I think we have Dalton now. Dalton, can you hear me? dropping. Okay. I guess calling back one more time. I mean, I'm drowning here right now. Okay. One moment. All right, we're gonna try with Dalton one more time. Again, apologies here. But like I was saying, I think with the quarterback, we all look at the SEC was a really good quarterback league. Look what you have. And again, that's not even counting Gunnar Stockton, right? I mean, you have Marcel Reed, veteran guy coming back. So that was just interesting to me to see them kind of land a little bit later on in this list. But I think we're gonna connect with Dalton here. Let's see. All right, Dalton, can you hear me?
Yep, gotcha.
All right, man. Sorry about that. Very much appreciate you you taking the time today. Dalton Wasserman's with us, co-host of the Preferred Walk-On podcast. The Preferred Walk-On College Football Show. It's him and Max Chadwick. They also do some work from Pro Football Focus, and that's why we have Dalton on here. Pro Football Focus released their top 50 college football players ahead of the 2026 season. Dalton, before we dive in, can you give us a little insight on how y'all use the PFF metrics and everything to compile this list?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different factors that go into it, and basically Max and I just kind of sit down in a room and kind of parse through all of them, right, and figure out between the grades and the, things like wins above average and, yards and touchdowns and all the basic stats and then the general impact the guy has on his team. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into it, and narrowing it down to 50 for the entire country is a tough task, but feel like we did as well as we could on it and, kind of let the critics have their way with it.
So I want to ask you about the three LSU guys that are on there, but I'm going to come back to that because one of the things that did strike me was the first SEC quarterback appeared at number 9 with Arch Manning. I think it's easy to look at this SEC quarterback class and see Manning and Chambliss and Levitt and Reed, and Gunnar Stockton. I was a little surprised by that. How do you view this SEC quarterback class in 2026?
I mean, it's clearly very talented. All those guys you just mentioned, not even to name, guys like Lenora Sellers at South Carolina and, Byron Brown at Auburn. I mean, there's so many great players who have put up huge numbers over the last few years. John Mateer looking for a bounce back as well. But, I feel really good about the supporting cast, especially that Arch Manning has and the way that he played the second half last year. Trinidad Chambliss, obviously, with what he did throughout the season and deep into the playoff last year for Ole Miss. And, I mean, it's such a good group. It's a really athletic group. There are a lot of dual threat players like Manning and those other guys and Mateer and Sellers. So I think you have guys who are going to put up a lot of big-time numbers, and it's just going to depend on which team built the supporting cast the best around him.
In putting this list together, did it confirm or deny any assertion you may have had about a team heading into the 2026 season?
I mean, there's a few that stick out, right? I mean, you've got some major pieces at Texas like Manning and Cam Coleman and Colin Simmons, right? The Oregon Ducks out there in the Big Ten are absolutely loaded. I think we got 3 of their 4 starting defensive linemen in that mix, as well as Dante Moore and Jamari Johnson, a great tight end that they have, and they got a lot of other great players on that team. Ohio State, as usual, is loaded with Julian Sand and Jeremiah Smith near the very top. But, I mean, you got some talented teams. I also think it's a pretty wide-open national title race, and that list is pretty indicative of that, right? When you talk about a bunch of SEC teams that are capable, probably about 3 teams in the Big Ten that are capable, right? Miami down in the ACC, they're as loaded as ever. So I think when you're talking about a wide-open race that doesn't have a clear favorite, that's what you're looking at here.
Let's dive into some of the LSU guys. Sam Levitt was the highest ranked for LSU. It came in at number 41. Obviously coming off the injury, and I mean, down year because of that a year ago. He's fully cleared now per LSU. What is a fair expectation for Sam Levitt? Like, what are you watching for from the Tiger signal caller?
Look, he's as physically gifted as any quarterback in the country, right? You look at his rushing ability, the ability to escape the pocket with his legs. You look at as much arm talent, especially as loose and, odd that he can give you the delivery from those odd angles outside the pocket. He's got as much talent as anybody. He's just got to clean up the footwork and the accuracy. And last year, what he fell into at Arizona State was just trying to really carry the offense too much by himself, right? Kind of do the Patrick Mahomes thing and do everything feeling like he's got to save the team every play. So I think Lane and Charlie Weiss, they're just going to have to figure out how to get him to play a little more often within the structure of the offense. We know he can do special things outside of the pocket, but the ability to play on time and have clean footwork and put the ball where it's supposed to be accurately, that's what you're looking for. If he does that, again, he's as talented as anybody in the country. He could be in the Heisman race.
Jordan Seaton was the next LSU Tiger on there at 43, which I think Dalton, just to be honest, caught a lot of LSU fans off guard. I mean, you look at all the mocks and whatnot at this point, and I know the draft is way off, and a mock draft isn't worth the paper it's printed on, but you're seeing Jordan Seaton a lot in the first round. Why did you check in at 43?
Honestly, you just got to round out the game a little bit more. He's as good and athletic a pass protector as we have in the country. Just got to get better in the run game, honestly. When you look at the last 2 years at Colorado, and that's not just him, that's that entire Colorado team was basically incapable of running the football, and the offensive line was a big part of that. So, if we feel like he can get a little bit stronger in his true junior year and he can improve, especially that LSU run game that struggled last year, if we see a big improvement on that offensive line, Seaton will probably be a big reason for it. But the pass protection gets him into the top 50. What kept him out of, say, maybe the top 20 was just the run blocking. Got to be a little bit better up front in that department.
Then, of course, Trey'Dez Green came in at 49. People love to talk about Trey'Dez Green, so I'll just leave it open for you to do that, Dalton. Trey'Dez Green, go.
I mean, 6'7" guys are not supposed to be that athletic and have that, that level of catch radius in the hands and all the things that he gives you, especially down in the red zone. And I think he's going to get unlocked even more with a more stable offense, a fast-paced offense that's going to put him all over the formation, give him one-on-one matchups. We've seen it with Lane Kiffin before. He's had some talented tight ends. Daquan Wright at Ole Miss last year was really good, but Green is freakish, man. I mean, you talk about a guy who can win one-on-one matchups, get down the seam, get to the back corner, whatever you need him to do. I think Kiffin's going to have a lot of fun utilizing him because he's really the big size threat in that system. Got to get a little better as a blocker for the NFL game. But in this wide-open system with the tempo they run it, Green's going to be a serious problem for opposing defenses.
Chatting with Dalton Wasserman, of course, on Twitter X at CFB_Dalton, co-host of the Preferred Walk-On CFB show, does some work with Pro Football Focus as well. Dalton, when you put together a list like this, you kind of mentioned it right off the top of the interview here. Man, it's hard to whittle it down to 50. Who are some of the guys who just missed out that we need to keep an eye on here as 2026 progresses?
Man, I almost got to go back through and see. I mean, the quarterbacks especially were so stacked. I mean, there was a handful of quarterbacks that you feel like really, within our 8 to 14 range on our quarterbacks list, right? I think about guys like Noah Fafito, who's been so good for so long in Arizona. Think about a guy like Drew Mestemaker and even his number one receiver, Wyatt Young at Oklahoma State, coming up from North Texas. I think that could be a very explosive offense this coming season. So I think, a big theme really for college football this year and for next year's draft has been, man, look at all of the quarterbacks. Look at all of them, and there's always breakout stars, but some of those kind of stick out to me, especially when you talk about guys like Fafita or Mestemaker or even a Bear Bachmeier from BYU. Those guys are all emerging stars at that position.
All right, Dalton, I have one more for you in regards to the SEC. And I ask this just because, man, they're not really getting any headlines, but I'm scrolling this list, and I just see player after player from the University of Georgia. Is Georgia somehow underrated so far this offseason?
I think it's just because they're not the team that always makes the big splashy moves in the transfer portal, and they don't have the controversy that's surrounded teams like LSU and Texas Tech and all of that. It's almost like they're so good we take them for granted, right? But you're going to get the constants from Georgia, right? They're going to get solid quarterback play. They're going to have a really good run game. They're going to have a top 10 defense in the country. The back seven on defense is outstanding. And really, when it comes to Georgia, you kind of take them for granted, just going, okay, they're going to be among the final 8 teams standing, and we'll see if this year sure they can finish it off. But I think there are some real questions about, the receiving core. There's not a lot of proven production there. Can they be explosive enough in the passing game? Do they have enough of a pass rush on their defensive line, or are they going to have to manufacture that? So they're really strong. They're going to win at least 10 games again, and it's one of those things you almost chalk up. In a world of variables in college football, Georgia is one of the very few constants, and I think this time of year, people are finding a reason just to not pick Georgia to go a long way or to win the whole thing, and as always, they're going to be right there in it.
Well, picking Georgia kind of actually seems like the safe bet. I'd go out of my way kind of to pick Georgia. I feel like at this point they're going for 3 SEC titles in a row, or Kirby Smart's Bulldogs. And I'm sure he's very happy that nobody's talking about his team as they just kind of lie in wait. Dalton Wasserman on Twitter X at CFB_Dalton. Pardon me. On Twitter X at CFB_Dalton. Preferred walk-on CFB show. Get him over there. And also a contributor of Pro Football Focus. Dalton, we appreciate the time, man. Thank you for hanging with us during the technical difficulties again. We'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Appreciate you as always. Thank you.
Of course, that is Dalton Wasserman. It's After Further Review, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness here on a Wednesday. Musso in for Moscona. Moscona will be back on Monday. We got to go around the SEC still. There's another development in the Brendan Sorsby saga, although this one doesn't have anything to do with Texas Tech. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on here in the hour as well. But before we hit the break, AFR is brought to you by Rouse's.
Summer is here, which means beach vacations, barbecues, backyard pool days, whatever you got going on. Make sure you celebrate with our friends at Rouse's, no matter what you're looking for. Meat or fish to throw on the grill. Maybe you want some cold drinks for the adults or the kids. Chips and dips and all the servings and sides. Rouse's is your spot with 76 locations from Lake Charles to Orange Beach and points in between. You're never far from a Rouse's location. And one of the things I love most is Rouse's always does their best to make sure they source local products. You want local Louisiana products and ingredients, you'll get them at Rouse's. Whether you're making groceries, a quick stop to pick up something for dinner, or a day at the pool, make sure you make Rouse's part of your summer every day. Find the Rouse's nearest you. You can shop the weekly ads online at rouses.com, rouses.com. Rouse's, this feels like home.
All right, we'll grab a break here. We'll come back. We'll go around the SEC stuff to get to Bino Waters, LSU outfielder and #1 player in the transfer portal. He's going to join the show a little bit later on there in the second hour, so you have to leave. Come back for that. Looking forward to that chat with Bino. I mean, he is kind of the linchpin of that LSU transfer portal class. So we still have to get to that as well. Right now, we'll grab a break, come back. Around the SEC is next here on AFR.
AFR.
Brought to you by Glow Resources. If you are a business owner, if you're an HR manager, a VP, an ops manager, if you're the person in charge of hiring at your job, at your place of business, and you're having trouble finding the right people, you need Glow Resources. And I want to remind you, Glow Resources, they're exceptional when it comes to skilled blue-collar workers and also white-collar divisions. Remember, Glow Resources has a full professional placement division. So we're talking about office administrators, executive-level assistants, assistant controllers, plant managers, scheduling assistants, basically any type of office job. Accounting, HR, marketing, managerial, supervisor roles. If you're having trouble finding those people and sometimes hard to fill roles, Glow Resources specialize. They recruit nationwide. For example, they had a Baton Rouge company that was looking for an engineer. They found the employee in Florida to work the job in California. It's Glow Resources. Check them out online today. GLO, glowresources.com. Need a steel building? Proform Steel. I want you to remember the name. Why use Proform Steel? Well, I got tons of reasons. Here's a few. How about the lead times? 6 to 8 weeks from signed contract out the door. They'll get it to you quicker. Free delivery on every building. You buy it from them, they'll deliver it for free. It's Proform Steel. You can even order online. You can pick the style, size, color, doors, submit the form, get a call back the same day. And at Proform Steel, they use American-made materials on everything. No exceptions. It's Proform Steel. Maybe you need a shed in your backyard. Maybe we're talking about a big industrial facility. Need a steel building? You want Proform Steel. Make sure you call Brandon Golson, you know the name, at Proform Steel. Check them out, Proform Steel.
After further review, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
Well, the CSC and the NIL Clearinghouse, NIL Go, they've released another update on the numbers from NIL deals that they've accepted or I should say approved and rejected since their inception back in June of last year, 2025. So the rejected dollar amount has now gone up to $90 million. So since June 11th, 2025, when NIL Go, the CSC, all of that, the clearinghouse was launched, they've rejected $90 million in NIL deals. Contrast that to an approval of $355 million. So again, the majority of these deals that are going through, they're getting pushed, that are being submitted are getting pushed through this clearinghouse. Could they do things a little bit faster? Sure. But the majority of the deals are still getting pushed through, which isn't surprising. Now, of course, the deals have to be over $600 for submission, to NIL Go. But that's interesting. If you just look at the most recent 61-day period, May 1st through June 30th of this year, 34 million of those $90 million deals were rejected. That's where 34 million of that came, was just in the 61-day period, but also $113 million in deals were cleared. So, it is still the vast majority. What's interesting is the average deal that was approved during the 61 days was $14,792. The average deal that was rejected was slightly over $51,500. So you're not talking about, there's big deals, there's small deals. You average them out, obviously. But it's also, and only two deals are in arbitration. That's the other part of this. Why it's such a vast disparity in what has been approved and rejected is deals get rejected and then they're available for resubmission. A lot of it is, it's just, there's a little bit of issue with the deal and how it's written with the NCAA bylaws, and you can go and correct that and resubmit it, and the problems are normally worked out. So again, could it be a swifter process? Sure, but for its purpose, it's hard not to look at it and say that it's not working. The majority of these deals are getting pushed through. They just need more employees and need to move this along, a little bit faster. But I wouldn't expect that to happen. It's always going to be a slow and grinding process. But as long as the deals are getting approved, when it's all said and done, I don't think you're going to hear much gripe. All right, we're going to go around the SEC here in a moment, but first, Relief Windows. Great sponsor.
Brought to you by Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. When we talk about Relief Windows every day, I always say windows, doors, siding, and now shutters as well. They do your indoor shutters. Same thing as the windows. Custom made, measured to fit your windows, custom fit for your windows, lifetime warranty on your windows, your shutters. But Brandon, you often hear say their number one product is customer satisfaction. And that's not just a catchy line. That's not a cliche phrase. Have an experience with Relief Windows and you'll understand. They go to the ends of the earth to make sure their customers are thrilled with the work they do. As a matter of fact, Relief Windows never takes $1 from you. You will not, no deposit, no down payment. They take all the risk. They will not take $1 until you're thrilled with the work they do. Who else does that? Only Relief Windows. Check them out online at ReliefWindows.com.
All right, it's out further review here on a Wednesday. Musso in for Moscona. Let's go ahead and knock it out. Let's go around the SEC.
Around the SEC, bringing you the biggest news from the nation's best conference. The Florida Gators.
Florida, they picked up a commitment from four-star cornerback Raheem Floyd. That was Tuesday evening. He made that announcement, made multiple trips to Gainesville. Number 22 cornerback and number 170 overall prospect in the class of 2027. Finished his most recent high school season with 55 tackles and 1 pick, 26th commit for the current Gator class.
The South Carolina Gamecocks.
South Carolina has received their first commitment for the 2028 signing class. That is wide receiver Joseph Jet Gibbs. He's really fast, hence the nickname. Committed to the Gamecocks on Tuesday evening. Again, said first commitment for the 2028 cycle. Florida, Kentucky, NC State, Rutgers, Vandy, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, all had offers on the table. 6'1", 187-pounder, number 60th ranked wide receiver in the nation, number 10 prospect in the state of North Carolina. He'll be a Gamecock.
The Alabama Crimson Tide.
Alabama, they also got a commitment for the class of 2028. That is in-state linebacker Raekwon Butler. He announced that decision Tuesday evening to join the Tide. He also held P4 offers from Tennessee, Auburn, Mississippi State, Vandy, Ole Miss, Florida State, and more. Currently unranked by rivals, but with that offer list and a commit to Alabama, he obviously won't be unranked very much longer. He is actually the 4th commit for Kalen DeBoer in Alabama for the class of 2028. Multitasking going on over there in T-Town.
The Ole Miss Rebels.
Ole Miss baseball scored a win in the transfer portal. That is Sacramento State left-handed pitcher Sean Carey made that news public here on Wednesday morning. Chose the Rebels over rival Mississippi State. 6'2", 180-pounder. 41 innings a year ago. 64 punch-outs. Really good arm that they just got. Tied Sacramento State for the most appearances on that team. Had an ERA of 4.5, a 3-2 record, and 2 saves. We know how good that Sacramento State pitching staff was. They came here, won a series, and shut down the LSU offense.
The Arkansas Razorbacks.
And a quick note here, Arkansas basketball, their Thanksgiving Day matchup against Michigan State has officially now been announced. That was made official Wednesday. Razorbacks and Spartans, they'll tip off Thanksgiving Day, 3:30 Central at Little Caesars Arena in Detroit. It's part of the CBS Sports Thanksgiving Day Classic. It will follow Bears-Lions. Second year in a row, the Hogs and the Spartans will play. They played in East Lansing a year ago. Sparty won that one 69-66. The game in East Lansing, part of a home-and-home series. John Calipari says the plan is for Michigan State to play at Bud Walton Arena in the 2027-2028 season. So last year in East Lansing, now a quote-unquote neutral site game in Detroit on Thanksgiving. And then next season, Michigan State will make the return trip to Bud Walton. There you have it. That is Around the SEC here on a Wednesday edition of AFR presented by Your Goodwood, Goodwood Men's Sectional Wellness, yourgoodwood.com. We'll grab a break. We'll come back on the other side. Close out hour number 1, the latest in the story of the summer that just won't die. Yeah, that's right. We have more Brendan Sorsby news. That's next on AFR.
After further review.
We're brought to you by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com, yourgoodwood.com. Yes, hormone replacement therapy. Yes, NAD+. Yes, BPC 157. Yes, ED treatment. The bottom line is, gentlemen, I don't care how old you are. It's about how old you feel. And do you want to feel like you did when you were younger? Do you want to live a more vital life? Do you want to live a more energetic life? Where you wake up in the morning, your feet hit the floor, and you're rip-roaring ready to go. Where you're motivated to get in the gym. Where you have a great libido. Where you have great mindset, energy, mental clarity, memory, all that sort of stuff. It's possible. It's affordable. Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness can help you do it. Hormone replacement therapy could be a giant part of that for you. NAD Plus can literally help your cellular optimization to make you younger at a cellular level. BPC 157, tremendous in helping in recovery. Learn more. yourgoodwood.com. AFR is brought to you by Parish Restoration. Kill mold, remove odor, other harmful pathogens, commercial or residential. As a matter of fact, Parish Restoration, I love the process, by the way. If you go to the website at parishrestoration.com, you can see videos of their patented non-toxic dry fog treatment. So you see exactly what it looks like. Very cool. But they have fogged, over at Parish Restoration, they fogged one of the largest buildings in the entire state of Louisiana. So it doesn't matter if it's your office building, your church, whatever it may be, school, or your home. They can even fog your car. Maybe your car has a weird odor, musty smell. Maybe you bought a used car from a smoker and you can't get that smoky smell out. This will do it. They'll come while you're at work, fog it. By the time you're done with work for the day, boom, you're back in a clean smelling, fresh smelling vehicle. It's Parish Restoration. Learn more at parishrestoration.com. Parishrestoration.com. Do business with someone you know. Parishrestoration.com.
So while this entire Brendan Sorsby saga was going on with Texas Tech, and boy, didn't that last a long time, one of the questions that was being asked is, all right, yeah, Texas Tech, they're obviously in the wrong here, and yet he should not be able to play. But hey, what about Cincinnati? All right, like the betting was happening there too, and he bet on his team when he was at Indiana and then went to Cincinnati. Anything gonna happen to them? And it really got ratcheted up even more when Brendan Sorsby's agent went on radio and said, hey, Cincinnati knew about this. Like, they knew that this happened. Paraphrasing, but that's, basically what he said. Cincinnati was aware of his betting. They didn't get him help, and they let him play. And obviously, that's just going to ignite a firestorm. And now, the NCAA was made public Wednesday. Ross Dellinger was the first that I saw have it. He had a long piece up at Yahoo about Texas Tech and them smoothing over their reputation with the Big 12 and I don't care, whatever. But this nugget was in there. So I'll give credit to Ross. He was the first one that I saw with it. The NCAA has sent a letter of inquiry to Cincinnati centered around the former quarterback's time with the program. It's not an official opening of an investigation, but that is the first step. And now it's up to Cincinnati to respond to the NCAA's inquiry with all the documentation and evidence that they've probably requested in said inquiry so they can determine if an investigation is needed. For what it's worth, a Cincinnati spokesperson declined comment, but then provided a general station. So they declined to comment and then commented. Quote, we have had continuous conversations with the NCAA since the initial reports related to impermissible sports wagering began. As we have stated before, we do not believe any athletics official or staff member was aware of any impermissible sports wagering. Look, I'm not here to tell you what the NCAA is going to do if Cincinnati knew about this. Brendan Sorsby doesn't play there anymore. What are you going to do? Make them vacate their wins? Fine them? Do something along those lines? Take some scholarships? Okay, fine. I'm not going to sit here and, act like that's nothing and just hand wave it away. The vacating wins is nothing. We all watch the games. We know they happen. That's never been anything. It never will be. But if, they end up having to incur scholarship fines or things of that nature, that's significant for a program, obviously like Cincinnati, really any program. And what you might even see is revenue share penalties potentially there, right? I mean, that's an NCAA. The revenue share is an NCAA thing. That's the NCAA sharing revenue with those member institutions. Could you see a fine potentially there? Maybe. But my whole thing with Cincinnati is his time there's done. He's ineligible now. He won't play for Texas Tech. He'll go prepare for the draft, maybe play in the UFL, and then start his NFL career. Because a team is going to eventually take a chance on him. Where they give up draft capital, which I don't know if they're going to, or they sign him as a UDFA, he's going to get an opportunity in the NFL, and that's great. So my whole thing kind of with the Cincinnati thing is, all right, yeah, like if they knew and they knowingly played an ineligible player, then yeah, some consequences involved there. I'll leave that up to the NCAA. And while they're pretty much powerless against players now, because, temporary injunctions and of the sort of there, the NCAA goes to court against the player, they lose. They obviously still have authority over their member institutions and can punish them as they see fit. So it's worth noting, and it'll be worth following this portion of this as well, now that Cincinnati has officially been served a notice of inquiry from the NCAA, will that result in an investigation? Probably. But what comes of it? I don't know. And I mean, is it really anything of consequence? I could imagine the penalties would be pretty stiff. Just given the fact that it's the one rule, right? That's the one thing that everybody all agrees on. Can't do that. And if you knowingly played him, given his history, that's a big problem. And the NCAA could come down pretty hard, I would imagine, on Cincinnati in the future of that program with restrictions, like we said, scholarships, rev share, all of that. So something to monitor, just the latest involvement, or the latest evolvement, I should say, I guess, of Brendan Sorsby and his saga that has just dominated, really, the sports news cycle here in the fall, not just in the summer, I should say, not just the college football news cycle. So there you go. You're up to date with the very latest. All right. That's just about going to do it here for hour number 1 of AFR. Bino Waters, LSU outfielder, number 1 player in the transfer portal. He's set to join the show here with us in about 30 minutes or so from right now. So stick around for that. When we get back, we'll switch gears to the New Orleans Saints. We haven't touched on the Saints yet today, so we'll switch gears with the New Orleans Saints. Breakout player on the defensive side. One national analyst took a stab at it. Guy he picked might surprise you. We'll look into it, break it down, see if we agree, disagree. What would a breakout for this guy mean? We'll tell you all about it next here on AFR Sports Center. It'll get you caught up on your national headlines. Then we're back for hour 2. It's a Wednesday edition of AFR presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. YourGoodwood.com. Hour 2 is next.
After further review.
We're running about First South Farm Credit, firstsouthland.com, firstsouthland.com. Thinking of buying land, your first call should be to First South Farm Credit, firstsouthfarmcredit.com, firstsouthfarmcredit.com. Hey, remember, always encourage you to go to the website, firstsouthfarmcredit.com. If you're a farmer, no doubt you know about First South Farm Credit because they've been helping farmers buy agriculture land for more than 100 years. But if it's maybe it's that hunting property, maybe it's just your recreational property in Mississippi, maybe you want to go buy a ranch in Montana. They can help you buy land anywhere in the lower 48. Buying land is different than buying a home. You know that. So trust the people who have helped Louisianans buy land for more than 100 years. First South Farm Credit. Go to firstsouthfarmcredit.com, firstsouthfarmcredit.com. One more time, firstsouthfarmcredit.com. Your first call should be to First South Farm Credit.